When we add to that the fact that oil is not just another commodity, not just another resource, another product in the American mindset, it is first and foremost associated with U.S. national security. We need to keep in mind that the United States is quite capable and uses much of its current military operations to protect supply chains and supply lines all over the world. In the book, I detail and walk through what those supply chains are, where those different fleets are, and where the military operations exist. At the same time, the military in the United States uses a great deal of oil itself. Estimates range from 385,000 barrels a day to 500,000 barrels a day by the military alone. And when you put that all together, you're talking about 85% of the entire U.S. government's use of oil is used for the military. Something we don't think about very much and unpack very much in terms of the implications of us being such an energy satellite to the United States. China and Russia are clear threats now to some extent in terms of control over oil supply sources and supply chains, and this is going to be increasingly a part of the picture that will be unfolding in the years ahead. What is happening, as this map indicates, which is a sequel to the map we showed earlier, this is a map which, if you had a chance to study it and see the different colors on there, shows where the projected pipelines, the projected refineries, the projected upgraders and things like that will occur, as well as the potential pipelines like from the Mackenzie Delta down or from Alaska down from the north and tying into the Arctic as well. This is the picture that's projected between now and 2030. Of course, the situation has changed in the U.S., or at least it appears to have changed, and we will see what the real impacts of that are really going to be. But it is instructive to look at President-elect Obama's energy plans, and it is important perhaps to keep, very much to keep these in mind and to test the extent to which they are really followed through on, particularly given the kind of economic constraints that he is going to be facing with his new administration. But there's no question that he put forward a new energy plan for America. And in that new Energy for America plan, he called for, among other things, that between now and the year 2025, or at the latest 2030, that there would be a reduction of 6.5 million barrels a day of oil in the United States. Now, this is consumption. So, for the first time, we have an energy policy that really takes consumption in the United States seriously. This was combined with a whole approach towards renewable energy alternatives, including a green jobs plan and everything else. These are tied together in that Obama vision. Whether or not it can be implemented is a set of questions that we will have to look at and monitor very carefully. But it could have some serious impacts with regards to our addressing the tar sands dilemma in the future. And the second thing is that quite clearly that not only the Obama administration coming in, but also the American Mayors conference that was held in New Orleans, in Florida, in Miami, Florida, this past June. What was said there very clearly is that dirty oil will not be accepted by some states and by some cities, and the Obama administration appeared to chime in on that at the time. Again, with this whole thing back and forth between the Harper government and the new Obama administration with regards to where the environment standards are going to fit into this picture remains to be seen. But the point being that a position was taken, and we need to monitor that pretty carefully as well. But we also need to keep in mind that there is this NAFTA juggernaut that has been with us since 1989. And that is the fact that we have a proportional sharing rule that is woven into the free trade agreements between Canada and the United States, whereby Canada is obligated to continue supplying ongoing exports of oil or natural gas or other resources to the United States that is equal to the average of the previous 3 years of exports. And given the fact that that has been on a trajectory up and up and up and up to the point where 68 or 69% of our oil is now exported to the United States, this is the kind of pattern and trajectory we are on, and that's the problem that we are faced. As long as that NAFTA proportional sharing rule is in place, it puts us in a real bind as a country and as a nation. It is further being reinforced today by the Security and Prosperity Partnership, which has set up the National Energy, the North American Energy Commission. And this North American Energy Commission is at least an instrument that's put in place to try to engineer much more of a continental regime whereby both Mexico and Mexico and Canada become energy satellites of the United States. And this is the kind of agenda that's been unfolding, and something that requires very serious scrutiny under the Obama administration. We do know that Obama has said that he has problems with the SPP, with the Security and Prosperity Partnership, so hopefully we will see some kind of opening on that front. And this is, again, something we have to watch very carefully. And his desire to reopen, possibly reopen NAFTA for renegotiation, again, remains to be seen whether that happens or not, provides us with an opportunity to start to say, if you reopen it on labor and environmental standards, you must reopen it in terms of the Energy Pact itself and the Energy Chapter. So these are all things that are in the offering right now that we need to watch very carefully because they relate to the tar sands. Let me just try to wrap it up and conclude by saying that really, I hope that across this country, Canadians start to understand that the tar sands is not just something stuck out there in Alberta, not just a boom that is helping the Alberta economy develop and overheat from time to time, but it is something that is front and center in terms of our economics and our politics and our history in this country, and it's going to have a huge impact on our destiny in the 21st century. And I do hope that we will start to come to grips with that and recognize that we are going to have to make some hard decisions about whether or not we are going to move into the future in terms of an alternative environment and energy future and start to carve that out. And to do that means fundamentally transforming our economy. It isn't enough just to say, we got to bring in environmental policies. It isn't just enough to say we have to change our energy patterns and production and consumption of energy, but we also have to make fundamental changes in our economy if we're going to move in this kind of a direction. At the same time, we realize that there is going to be a clear stance that's coming across. We've seen the stance in terms of no new approvals, which we call a kind of short-term moratorium, or a moratorium that is oriented towards conditions and putting conditions on, very strong conditions on not allowing any more new approvals take place. But at the same time, there is the movement from there to a much more what I call a permanent moratorium, and that is to say we have to start moving towards the shutdown of the tar sands and the phase out of the industry itself. There is no way in which this industry can be made compatible with the environment. It's also driving a hole in our economy, and it is moving us in the totally wrong direction as far as where we have to move in terms of an energy future. So for those very reasons, we have to think much more critically about where we move in the future with regards to what I call the EEE crisis of the economy, the environment, and energy itself. So finally, let me just say that there are many groups that are engaged in this struggle. Many of the groups that are here and we've been talking about, I think, are there, up there on that chart, to give you some idea anyway of the kinds of groups that are engaged in this campaign work. And finally, I'd just like to say that the reason why one of the reasons why we called the book Tar Sands Showdown is just to put an emphasis on the fact that the time has come for a real showdown with the tar sands. It's not going to be over with tomorrow. It's not going to be over with next year. This is a long-term struggle and a fight. that's going to last for some time. But even if we're just concerned about moving into that new phase of renewable energy alternatives, or just if we're concerned about the climate change impacts of this, or a variety of other concerns that we may have, the fact remains, as long as the tar sands development is allowed to continue and be protected in its growth and development, the longer we will be faced with the more difficult task of making any transition into a sustainable energy and environmental and economic future. So I say to you today, it's time for a showdown. That time has come, and I hope you will join with us, not only for the sake of ourselves today, but for the sake of future generations, and certainly for the sake of the planet itself. Thank you very much.